Now, if you're a pattern nerd like me and you love drafting your own patterns, you're gonna end up into the predicament where you have a lot of patterns. Where do they all go? What is the best way to organize it? Like this on a hook? Is it like this on a computer? And if it is like this to hang, do you have to put every pattern onto this thicker oak tag paper, or do we leave it as the flimsy paper? I have my favorite way that I like to store my patterns that I want to share with you. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm your girl Trisha, your pattern nerd friend, owner of Creative Costume Academy, where we talk all things pattern making, fitting, and sewing here on my channel. And today we're talking about pattern storage. How do I like to store my patterns, and what are some different options, and maybe why I like to store my patterns the way I do. I did mention that you can store them digitally. Now I will say, even though I think digital pattern making is very cool and there's some really excellent programs out there, we actually have some classes at PatternCon this year where it teaches you how to do digital drafting and also how to take a hand drafted pattern and digitize it so you can use it for projector files or just for keeping copies of your patterns digitally instead of having them around and taking up space. I have always been a hands-on girl. I like the touchy-feely. Plus, when I'm doing costumes, which is my background, I am making it for one specific person. I'm not doing mass sizing and several different versions of the same thing in different sizes. Sometimes that would happen, but a lot of times it was for a specific person. And even if we were doing different sizing, it was very specific sizing. So while I've had access and dabbled a little bit in computer drafting, my go-to is always to do it by hand because then I know I have a real live paper copy. For people who want to learn digital pattern drafting, I highly recommend that you try drafting and working with patterns by hand first, because what a lot of those programs are is you're doing what you would be doing by hand, but it just makes it a little easier because you have different codes and different tools and different things that you can use to make it all go faster. But to comprehend how to take something that is flat like a paper or a piece of fabric and make it mold to the body in a certain way, there's something really special about getting to see that come together in front of you with paper, with your own hands. And I think it makes it all click a lot easier. I have to say that as a pattern making teacher, but I do think digital pattern making is really cool, but I just am more of a hands-on girl, and I do recommend you start that way. So if you go with the hanging your patterns on a hanger method, do you leave it in the flimsy paper or do you put it onto thicker paper? First of all, let's look at what these little hangy dealy bobbies are. So this is called a pattern hook. It's got a hook on one end and usually a T-bar on the other end, held together with a string in the middle. Now, in order to hang your patterns using this pattern hook, and that is exactly what it's for, you're gonna need a hole in your pattern. These are my skirt sloper patterns. There is a special tool that will punch that hole for you. It's known as a rabbit punch. This is your pattern. There's a little stopper on how far down you want it to go. You just get it in there, and then you punch it down. Punches a nice clean hole. If you don't have a fancy rabbit punch, there are other, hole punches that work just as well, or you can just cut out a hole. It doesn't have to be pretty, you just need a hole. Once you have a hole in your pattern, then you can take this little T-bar end, you put it through the hole so that it's barred on the other side, and then that allows you to hang it, and it's a really efficient way to hold your patterns. Now, I don't have all of my patterns on this thicker oak tag, this thicker paper, because it's not necessary. If I'm just doing a one-off or a quick show and then I'm gonna put it away for years and years, I don't need to put it onto this thicker paper, this oak tag. But if it's something that I am just using for the time being and I want to have it handy, I might keep it on this softer paper and still put it on a hook if it's something that I'm going to be using more frequently. But where I delineate whether I put it on thicker paper or not, if it's something that I use all the time. These are my slopers. These are my basic patterns that I can use to make any design that I want. They've been fit to me. I know that they're going to work. So I can have these are my starting template for making new designs. So this is meant to be traced off over and over and over again. Having it on thicker paper makes it much easier. If it's something that I'm only going to use once, then I'm not going to put it on this thicker paper and take that time. Sometimes what I do, you'll notice, this is that dotty paper, but it's backed with the thicker paper. I use a little spray adhesive, stick it onto the thicker paper, cut it out, and then I don't have to retrace it. So that's another quick way to get your stuff onto that thicker paper to be used as templates. So I like to keep my slopers and patterns that I use all the time on oak tag. But this is how I keep the majority of my patterns in notebooks like this, and I'll show you what the inside looks like. But notice how these are different shows and different projects that I've worked on, and each folder has patterns for that particular show or project, and that's how I keep them organized. This is one of my clients from a long time ago. This is just a basic version, so this is a quick sketch of the design that this pattern is, and I try to at least put what this pattern is and if there's any other information for some of my shows that I've done. So this was 2013. Marquee was a nightclub in Las Vegas. And I always tried to have it on the outside as well. This one has a little bit more information about how many people I'm doing costumes for and their measurements. And then when we get into, I always at least put the name of what each pattern is, but when I have specific designs, so anything behind this design then relates to that. This is an actual mock-up, which turned out being the pattern. This is a different design, and I actually designed this one. I had somebody do the sketches for me, but this is how I would break it down if it was more of a show style, so that I know all the pieces that go with each look. Also, as a reminder, we are talking about self-drafted patterns. This is how I like to keep my commercial patterns, what the pattern is in each drawer, and then this is just a legal cabinet, and I have all of my commercial and vintage patterns in here organized as well as I could. It's maybe not the best way to do it, but it works really well for me. And so when I want to dig up a commercial pattern, I can come to these drawers and find someone like that. I usually have just a bunch of these sheet protectors that I can get pretty inexpensively on Amazon or at your office supply store. So when I have a pattern that is complete, or even if I'm working on it, this is just a self-drafted top pattern. So I didn't have a particular design. It was one I copied from something else, but I can fold it up pretty small, and then I just grab one of these sleeves and pop it into the sleeve. And if I don't have a sketch or anything, then I at least write what this pattern is, so that if I'm flipping through, and of course now I do this for my personal garments as well. I have one that is set up for my personal tops, and I have another one for my personal bottoms, so like pants, things like that. But I think I am gonna have to break it down even further. I didn't used to make this many patterns for myself, but now I'm kind of addicted, so So that is my favorite way to store patterns. I get asked this a lot, and I know some people like manila envelopes, and even with like commercial patterns, if it's something that you've used, to take that sleeve. But you can really pick up these sheet protectors pretty inexpensively, and it's a great way to keep them organized. I always go for the after school sale and get all the binders. I'm a big fan of the ones that have the clear on the outside, so you can put the title of what patterns are. And of course, there are many other ways. If you have a great way that you like to organize your patterns, please share it down below, because I think it's really helpful for us to see different ways of organizing. But as you can see, I've had lots of patterns. That shelf that I showed you is pretty much all the patterns that I've made over my 20+ year long career, and I have referred back to them years after I've originally drafted. So it's a system that's worked for me. If I have like little samples of weird things that I had to figure out, and I did like little tests of things, you know, with certain stitching and that kind of stuff, sometimes I'll put that in with the pattern and it lives with the pattern. So the next time I go to make that, I remember all the things that I need to know, or if it was special thread or specific fabric, then I'll put fabric swatches in. But hopefully this helps you kind of think of ways that will make sense to your brain as far as organizing all of our self-drafted patterns with all the cool stuff that we make because we're pattern nerds. Now, if you truly are a pattern nerd and you have been looking for your people, then you need to be coming to PatternCon. PatternCon is an in-person event, 2 days, August 1st and 2nd in Atlanta, Georgia. This year, we will be closing ticket sales soon. So if this sounds like your jam, you want to learn more about fitting, drafting, and everything in between, and connect with people who actually get it, be surrounded by people who are doing the same things as you, getting excited about it, sharing resources, networking, you need to be at PatternCon. This is only our 2nd year. We have great keynotes. We're going to feed you, but you do have to grab a ticket. This is not an event you can just show up last minute. We're going to have vendors. We have some amazing vendors this year. We have amazing guest speakers. It's just an all-around party around making clothes and costumes. I hope you can join us. Information is down below on how to grab a ticket, how to sign up for classes, what classes are still available, and all the nitty-gritty details. If you have any more questions about that, you can email us at hello@patterncon.com. And as far as what we have to share about for Tricky Thursday, that's all we got for today, but I really appreciate you watching, and I will see you next time.